Hey buddies, welcome to Maths Games. My name is Simon. This is your Maths Games podcast, last updated since the 29th of August 2025. Now, last time you heard that clapperboard, this time around I'm wearing a YouTube t-shirt that has been sent to me from YouTube. I've also got some other paraphernalia, a YouTube baseball cap and a few other bits and bobs. But as always, I'm going to tell you about what I have been playing and a little bit about them, including obviously some of their descriptions, which has been feedback, which I have mentioned before, about something that I know listeners have been after. So you can be listening to this, you might be listening to it over on YouTube, but that is the best place because you can comment and of course it creates that community. But of course you can be listening over on Overcast, Apple, it's also available on Spotify, etc., Podbean, whatever else. So a huge amount of cooperative games played back on that 29th of August, numerous games of time stories. In fact, I played 3 games through with Gabriele. We played Under the Mask, all 3 occurrences of that, having to win it. Also some games of Dominion Plunder. So this is the second of 3 most recent versions of Dominion, second edition that I've been playing. This deck building game and another deck building game, Heart of Crown 6 City Alliance, and also another cooperative game, which is a short unlock, which is called A Flight of the Phoenix. Okay, so that's taken us up into the next day, and let's talk about the 30th. So on that particular day, we then went into Sea, Salt and Paper, playing that as a 2, and then on to Sunday, this is the 31st of August, Fishing. So this is a trick-taking game, nautical theme by Freedom and Freeze. Many other games by Freedom and Freeze I've just been recording, so they're going live as of this week. And again, as always, if you haven't already subscribed, make sure you hit the notification bell to catch further stuff. Also, games of 220 Baker Street. So Flip 7 gave that a go in September, so numerous games of that. I'll give you a recap of all the games so far this year, as well as some more deck building cooperative games such as Aeon's End War Eternal. And into the latter part of that week, games of Sky Team, having to win that, and games of the deck building game Star Realms Frontiers. Finally, towards the end of that week on a Friday, there were some abstract strategy games. Now, many of these games I've been playing multiple times, but I'm not recapping, such as Gift Series, Gift of Von, and Zerts, as well as Subway Squeeze. So Zerts, I think I didn't get around to filming, but now I have. Other games in the Gift Series I will be bringing to your channel as well. Beyond the Sun, there's Castles of Burgundy, playing through more games of that. Great Western Trail Argentina, and also, the Subway Squeeze, which is a rather clever kind of game, and Inside Job. So didn't get on too well with Inside Job. Lots of us weren't really enjoying that one. But then Digit Code was an interesting kind of play TE game, followed by more different scenarios for Heart of Crown Fairy Garden, as well as Lorenzo Il Magnifico Big Box, giving that a shot again on Wedding Anniversary, which was interesting because we thought, it was just too tired to play, but we just persevered and loved it. And it was a fairly close game in the end, which was good to know. Tiny Towns. So, of course, back in June, I met somebody who knew the designer in person, like his friend from back home, which was really funny. Tower Up, more games with My Little Scythe, actually playing that as a 5, which is cool. As well as Three of a Kind and Itto. So Three of a Kind is a kind of, it's not a cooperative game, but it's a bit like Just One, but very good. And also many games of Itto, which is a cooperative game where you're trying to figure out how many, who's where on a scale of 100 on where you should be scoring something. Moving on to the middle of that September, Gin. Has been playing through Gin lots of times, including the In My Box wooden insert, which has a lid. Unlike any other insert, it's really good because it can be upside down and it won't get dislodged and pieces moved around, especially with games like My Little Scythe, which has game trays, but is terrible because it just all turns upside down. And I thought game trays would have a lid, but it's more about game trays, not game lids, I guess. But Cities, Botanicus, The Gang was played over in Caversham. So Cities, the De Vere game, Botanicus, Handsome Gluck, and The Gang is a poker game, which I've been playing more and more of. Happened to win at Botanicus in my first game. Cities was interesting, but a bit fiddly, and it wouldn't be higher than a 7 for me. I thought it was a bit no different to many other games out there. Many games of Micro Macro Showdown, I was giving that a shot as well. And then moving into that third week, and in the games that are new would include Pagan, Fate of Roanoke, which I had played in person and didn't quite get well when I played online. But Flume, Jurassic Snack, I've been playing with as well as Alpamine and other Play TE games. More games from Play TE coming to the channel, more stuff. As of this week, you'll see the Splendor box, which is the small Splendor mini style box that you can transport stuff around in, as well as Tactile, which actually I did quite like. Golfy, which I didn't like, as well as Lure, which is a funny fishing game, which has some lovely sound effects. Mythicals, which wasn't too bad. Scratch and Catch, which wasn't terrible, and Ink had some appeal, very much like Azul, with Sophie Gravel behind that one. Ryan Jewel, though, playing that again, and also playing Wizards Cup and Outfoxed. Moving on to Caddo, and more games in Naturopath, which I'm still struggling to win in. I think I won in person, but not online. On to Blitzkrieg, some two-player only games, playing that, as well as more games of Lorenzo. Ninjan, didn't quite get on with that one, unfortunately. And My Shelf for the Dice game, disappointed with that one, knowing it's similar to Yanni, but yeah, it's very different to My Shelfie, which I've still got to bring you as well. Also, Cairo Corridor. A lot of these games are fairly, let's say, forgettable, but Duel for Cardia was a lovely game, a two-player game, two-player only game, I believe, whereby you're trying to predict what someone else might play. It's not quite Yomi, and I can see why some people might not like it, but I'm glad to see it has got some good ratings. Pro Poo is a very funny, kind of quirky game whereby you're trying to get a granny to move around from a stove, and you're trying to get into the right place at the right time. Pentaquest and Camon. Camon was quite nice, a Bruno Cathala game, but I can see why some people might find it a bit too abstract and a bit too garish to look at. Exhibition 20th Century. We didn't think too much of this one, nor did others. And in fact, the designer contacted me when they saw my sort of rather, I'd say negative review. It was just felt a bit bland. And they thought we weren't really getting it, which sometimes designers do contact me. And I'm sure they contact others when they say, oh, no, you didn't quite get the game. But fair enough. They might think they're in their own bubble and think it's their best game ever. But unfortunately, criticism is important. Toy Battle, they didn't quite get on well with his Palamori game, but I do prefer his other designs, such as Blitzkrieg, which I did mention earlier. Munchkin Dungeon, I thought we actually had played that, but I didn't actually get around to playing that one. Whereas SETI, I don't like it as much as the Holoc's other designs, but it's okay, but it's very long, unfortunately. Shogi, I did quite like this, but it is much longer than chess. Let's bear that in mind. Crystal Palace is great, though. I'll make sure I've got a video out for that one, which is very much like Leonardo da Vinci, the game, that is, of course. And you're trying to make sure you've got enough money and not losing too much money at the end, which is a big factor. The old ones won Australia, playing that again, this semi-cooperative game set in the outback and having to deal with Lovecraftian monsters. Moving on to Moonshine, which didn't get well with that one either too much, unfortunately, kind of a 6 out of 10. Whereas Solstice, I did play that again, whereby you're trying to make this kind of pyramid of a mountain, which wasn't that enjoyable. More games of Splendor. So this is an engine building game. You're trying to get to 15 points first to win. But if it's a tie, then you're going to see how many cards. And most recently, we've had a few ties. So jumping into November, I will tell you that even check out my Splendor playmat videos. We've had 2 back-to-back games on 2 different days, different people with the ties. So into 16 points, I won on the tiebreak by 1 card. And then the next day, I lost with 15 point each tiebreak. And again, just lost by 1 card. But games of Logic and Lure. Moving on to other games of Orion Duel, which is a 2-player only abstract strategy games, multiple win and losing conditions, which I do like. King of Tokyo Duel, gave that a shot. Didn't really buzz to that one. Caesar, some more games by Paolo Mori, the follow-up to Blitzkrieg. Port Royal, gave that a shot as well. Another quick teacher, that one. Easy Peasy Lemon Squeaky, don't recall much about this one. Tell you what, I'll give you a bit of a brief overview just to make sure I'm not just ranting through too many things. But some games, let's say, that happen to have a name and a pun, I'm generally wary of. And most of the time, I think that is accurate. I think too many games could do with, fair enough, they've got an idea that you're trying to get something to work, but it's a 4 out of 10. That's why I kind of think I gave it such a bad review. You're basically completing a challenge or answering a question to gain a lemon wedge. So hopefully by me just skipping over, let's say, some games, it's worth it. Now, moving on to some other games. Rumble Nation. This is a game whereby you're trying to get area majorities and kind of cascade them into other regions. It seems great. It looks great. It's fairly clean. But unfortunately, it isn't a great experience. It is a bit, not, I wouldn't say naff, but the sum of its parts is just a bit underwhelming. Hatan Life in the Forest isn't too bad, but again, there are other games out there which are just smoother in what they're trying to do, such as, let's say, King Domino. But in this game, you're trying to place out and plant flowers, and you're trying to make sure you complete zones of various sizes, and if you complete them, you get points. If you don't, you lose points, which are normally half the amount if you have them completed. So either gaining 6 or you're losing 3, but then you can plant things over it, which can have cascading effects, which sounds good, but isn't as good as it seems. Pergola, having first played that over 3 years ago when it was a prototype, so check out my video for that, as it's pretty much the same game. We'll be bringing another video for Pergola as well, so I'll talk to you about that then. Far Away, though, it's an interesting game whereby you're kind of scoring backwards, but check out my video for that. Verdant wasn't as fun as I thought it might be, but it wasn't terrible. Viva Katrina is a kind of a tile laying game, but again, you're trying to connect up routes a bit like in the Highway Robber in not in Catan, but in Carcassonne, but it wasn't as good as I hoped it would be. Shot and Totten, though, it's fine, but I still prefer, I think, Battle Line is a bit cleaner, as others do too. Other games, though, that I can tell you about, which were new games. Hey Yo, this is an Oink game. Not bad. It's a cooperative game. You're trying to match to the beat and get various things to score, but I think it has had its day. Pina Cola Dice didn't get on too well with this, where you're trying to do Yahtzee, but trying to get N in a row at the same time. Didn't work out too well. Life Amazonia, though, has been great. That was my game of the month, and it was a really enjoyable game whereby you're trying to get your forest to grow and do this bag building stuff too and work with your special animal. Highly enjoyable, still working through a lot of that. So a lot of content to explore in terms of different abilities that the animals can do in different sides, A, B, C, and D. Bella Magica, I didn't like this one too much, and I'll come back onto that one. But Azul Jewel is very much like Azul, but a lot more thinky. And I think some people just felt it was a bit of a cash grab. Lots of people thought that a bit too much. But yeah, you're trying to, similar to the Jokers or the Blank Side, you're trying to get that to work as well. But Bella Magica, you can check out my video. I gave it a 6.2. You're just trying to engine build. It's very much a kid's game and trying to reach 10 points. That's pretty much sums it up, really, to be fair. That takes us up to the end of September. So a fairly busy month. Of course, you can check out over on Instagram those full stats. But yeah, into October talk about as well. Captain Tabasa trading card game is a football game, which is rather good, but I've never won at it. The big issue has been the luck. That's why I'm not going to play that one anymore after giving it a few attempts. Doomlings, though, and Forest Shuffle Dartmoor. So Forest Shuffle Dartmoor is a game whereby you're playing Forest Shuffle, which we've talked about before. You're just trying to get various cards to synergize with each other. This one is taking it to more of an extreme, and it's supposedly more of a gamer's game. But I think for some people, if they don't like Forest Shuffle, they're definitely not going to go for this one. And it takes, I think, slightly longer too. So there's that factor, to bear that in mind. But I thought I enjoyed it, and I don't mind giving it another shot. As for Doomlings, this is a game which seems a lot like Cards Against Humanity, but it's quite nice. You're trying to get various different colours, but more of the same are generally better for you because you're going to score more points, but then people can try and steal cards off you. So it's pretty quick. I think I prefer it on the quicker mode with only 2 cards per era rather than 3, but you can go longer with 4. Koshkeki, I did quite like. You kind of jump up these various bars, and as much as I liked it the first 2 games, I'm kind of done with it. Skull King I've played before. It's very much like Wizard, but I still don't like Skull King. Aero, so this is Aero. This is a game that I happened to play online. Didn't get on well with it though, only because, like I said, I can't recall much about it. If you can't recall a game, as I've said, is there really much to think about? And yeah, at the time, I can't recall much, but it is A.E.R.O. just to bear that in mind. And yeah, it's nothing that really kind of sinks in for me. So that takes us up to kind of the middle of October, which is important because then I went over to Japan. So I've been playing games over there and also Korea and also China. Legions, and the Lord of the Rings Fellowship of the Fate. So Lord of the Rings Fellowship of the Fate is very much a pandemic style game. It's very much like War of the Ring as well. And similar to that, you're trying to obviously get the ring to Mount Doom. But in the case of how is it like? It's like Foundations of Rome. I think some people seem to like it, but it's very much more convoluted, and it's a bit too much, I think, for lots of players. If I've only played base Pandemic. Cash and Grab, still trying to get on with this one, but haven't been loving it so far. Encore, though, playing more games of Nokmal. That Legions game, I still can't recall, but I can't seem to find the listing for that, unfortunately. But again, not memorable enough. Whereas Arboretum, kind of mentioned before about Verdant, this is a nice but very crunchy game whereby you're trying to play out various trees. And as nice as the deluxe edition is, which is like shinier cards and better art, it's not something that I need to come back to. So I was going to get that game in person, but yeah, chose not to. Mesos kind of grew on me. I think it's not exactly. It may well be broken in terms of what you need to do each turn, and I don't really want to discuss that here because I feel like that could spoil it for people's discovery. But yeah, I feel like first turn advantage has one factor without hinting too much at it. Luz didn't mind, but wasn't as good as I hoped it would be. This is a game about light. And I remember when this kind of first came out as a kind of a preview about a year or so ago, didn't really kind of grow on me. This is where it's funny enough, it did grow on me. The game went on, but hasn't grown on me enough to me to love. Um, I happened to win the game I played, but what you're trying to do is you can see other people's cards, you can't see yours, but like Hanabi, but you're kind of predicting how many cards you can win. Enjoyed it enough. I mean, I would play it again, but yeah, I don't think I'd own it, put it that way. I think it's, especially because you need minimum 3 and sometimes just trying to arrange the right people to then play those games with is a factor. Cafe, this is a game whereby you're placing down cards, partially covering the previous stuff, trying to get a sort of engine build to work. It was okay, but it wasn't quite for me. Pioneer Days, finally got around to playing this after many years. Didn't quite get on with it. I need to try and give it another shot. Quinto, this is a game I've already shown on the channel. It's fine. It's not a great roll and write game, though. So Forbidden Island, gave this another shot. I've had a few games of this and managed to win digitally for the first time, which is a bit more, I guess, truer to the game because you can't fully communicate, obviously, which is good. Yaxa, more talking to you about that on the channel soon. So I'm going to hold off on that one. Twinkle Twinkle, I really liked when I first started playing this one. This is a game whereby you're bidding in some respects on turn order to then take tiles and trying to get constellations or planets or satellites or black holes or comets, and you're trying to place them out and you're going to get score points depending on their various win conditional scoring conditions. King's Craft is a game whereby you are trying to, this is now into November, you're trying to get various things to craft up and you're rolling dice and you're trying to then beat various monsters, which gives you more crafting stuff to then fight the king and win. But no, it's too much, unfortunately, bad luck with the dice. Path Before Heaven is an expansion, or the second expansion of Heart of Crown, which we haven't been liking as much as the other one. But after the next game, we're going to be, it's the scenarios are mixing it with the first expansion, Six City Alliance. So I'm quite excited to see what that does, plus the various cards. But so far, we're seeing that, yeah, if you hold back and try maybe go for 8 coins to get the support, you're going to lose. So yeah, it's a bit of a shame how you're losing quite a big chunk of stuff that's provided, but they are very strong. So I was catching up on, I guess, maybe catching those points, but maybe a few turns too late, alas. Doomlings, well, I've talked about that already. Codenames, more games of that. A couple of games lost in a row, and then take that 30th anniversary edition, or take 5, in fact, playing with a new promo. So I'll bring you more information about that one. Coffee Rush, well, that's now already out. That relates to a game whereby you're trying to move around this little 3x4 grid, getting various resources, which you'll use to make various coffees and stuff. It's certainly a rush in terms of being very frantic. It's nice, but mainly for the components, and I'd only going to give it a 6 out of 10. Souvenirs from Venice is another newish Oink game. It's 10 years after Deep Sea Adventure designers have made a game, and it is very similar to it. It's not as good, though, especially as a 2. Moving on to other games into now late November. Hanging Gardens. This is a game whereby you are trying to rearrange and think what's the best kind of thing to place in your level 1, 2, and 3, almost like pyramid. 5, 4, and 3 things go on it and have things next to each other. Nothing new, nothing that original. It's a remake of a 2008 game, although that's not listed on any kind of publication, which is a bit of a shame to not show that kind of credit. Freeze's Landlord, well, that I think is now live, or is going live this week. This is a small box Freedom and Freeze game that came out in 2013, but first came out as Landlord in 1992. And it's a very funny game, and it's an economic game whereby you are looking to place out apartments and people in them, and they're going to give you points based on, or coins, and income basically, but then you can take that to stop people as well. Connect 4, well, I've now got a video out for that, finally, after 51 years since it came out. Agent Avenue's been great, so I've got a video out so you can see that as it goes live. Beyond was okay, but it's a push your luck game that isn't anything special, so like a 5 or a 6 out of 10. Gatsby is a Bruno Cathala co-designed game. Nothing really stands out for this one, whereby you're just trying to move up various tracks and just get 3 of a kind or 1 of each. So nothing special there. Whereas Chemical Overload is a game whereby you are trying to deck build, but the various changes in the rules. For example, stage 1 means you can, for example, you can destroy a chemical in hand. Stage 2 lets you have 1 of your chemicals is worth something better, etc. So that's quite cool. And Bomb Busters is a cooperative game, not as good as other cooperative hidden information games, which worries me, not worries me at all, but some people will look into what to do and say, right, this is the best, I've never played a game as good as this. And he goes, well, have you tried this one yet? So that is something to bear in mind. And Stalk Exchange, not fully getting on with this one, but it's sort of clever. You're trying to manipulate values and try and score what you might have hidden. So I'll come back onto that later. But there we go. That summarizes everything up until pretty much the end of November, or in this case, the 24th of November at time of recording. Speak to you again on the next one. For now, back to the table.